Australia is still sold as the lucky country. Sun, space, decent wages, a fair go. But for a growing share of Australians, the maths no longer works. In Sydney, the median house price reached about 1.72 million Australian dollars in the June quarter of 2025. A normal salary can't chase that. Even if you do everything right, study, work overtime, skip holidays, housing now runs away faster than your life can catch up. This isn't just a housing story, it's a system story. A country where the price of a roof rises faster than paychecks, where rent eats the spare oxygen out of a household budget, and where population growth collides with a construction machine that can't keep up. Start with the headline, affordability. By the September quarter of 2024, Australia's dwelling value to income ratio sat at around 8.0. In other words, the typical home cost roughly 8 years of a typical household income, before interest, before tax, before food, before anything. In Sydney, that ratio was closer to 9.8. This is not a market, it's a barrier, and the pressure doesn't stop at buying. Renting, supposed to be the flexible, cheaper option, has become the trap door. In 2025, Anglicare's National Rental Snapshot found that only 0.7% of advertised rentals were affordable for someone on a full-time minimum wage. For someone on JobSeeker, there were just 3 listings nationwide, all single rooms. That's not a shortage of nice options. That's the bottom rung of society being removed. Now add scarcity. A balanced rental market in Australia is often described as a vacancy rate of around 2.5%. Australia has been living far below that. National vacancy rates sat around 1.2 to 1.3% in late 2025, depending on the month. That means roughly 12 available rentals for every 1,000 dwellings. In practice, it looks like inspection lines, silent rent bidding, and landlords raising prices because they can. So what does impossible look like in real life? It can look like a nurse doing 12-hour shifts, still sharing with strangers in her 30s. It can look like a couple with 2 incomes delaying kids because childcare plus rent equals 0. It can look like people with jobs sleeping in cars because the market has decided their wage is not housing compatible. Over the next minutes, we'll follow the chain. Policy settings that reward speculation, migration numbers that outpace supply, inflation that lifted essentials, and a rental market so tight it behaves like an auction. By the end, the question won't be, why is Australia expensive? It will be, who is it still built for? First, understand the pressure cooker, demand arriving faster than the system can absorb it. Australia's net overseas migration surged after the pandemic. In 2023 to 2024, it reached about 429,000 people. In 2024 to 2025, it eased, but still sat around 306,000. Those numbers are not good or bad by themselves, but housing is physical. People arrive this week, homes don't. When the inflow is that large, the strain hits fastest where jobs and universities concentrate. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth. Temporary students were the largest single group of arrivals in 2024 to 2025, at around 157,000 people. Thousands of them compete for the exact same product, small rentals near transport and campuses. That pushes up rents at the bottom end first. Rooms, studios, share houses, because that's where demand lands. Then comes supply. Governments talk in targets because targets are easy. National Cabinet's goal is 1.2 million new homes over 5 years, starting from 1st July 2024. But building is not a speech. It's tradies, materials, approvals, infrastructure, and time. Australia's own National Housing Supply and Affordability Council has warned that, under current conditions, the system is unlikely to deliver that number, meaning affordability pressures can persist for years. So the market does what markets do under shortage. It rations by price. And here is where the story turns darker. Because Australia isn't just short of homes, it has also built a tax and finance environment that treats housing like the safest casino in town. Negative gearing is the clean, bureaucratic name for a simple idea. When the costs of a rental investment exceed the rent it earns, the resulting loss can be deducted against other assessable income, such as wages, subject to tax rules. In practice, that allows investors to run properties at a loss while waiting for the real payday, capital gains. Layer that with decades of rising prices, and housing stops being primarily shelter. It becomes strategy. This changes who you're competing with. A first home buyer walks into an auction thinking about bedrooms and schools. An investor walks in thinking about tax time, leverage, and exit value. One is bidding for a life. The other is bidding for a position. During inflation shocks, that pressure becomes brutal. Australia's headline inflation reached 7.8% year-ended in the December quarter of 2022, the highest annual rate since 1990. Even when inflation cools, prices don't rewind. Groceries, energy, insurance, transport, each small rise stacks. Meanwhile, wages move slower. In May 2025, average weekly ordinary time earnings for full-time adults sat at about 2,010 Australian dollars, up 4.5% over the year. Solid on paper, but colliding with housing costs that have compounded for far longer. Look at the ratio again: 8 times income nationally. In plain terms, even households doing fine by wage statistics can be priced out of ownership, and then squeezed in the rental market. That's how a country gets rich on average and broke in practice. When rent rises, everything else starts to fail quietly. Commutes get longer as people move further out. That means more fuel, less time, more fatigue. Workforce shortages appear in places you don't expect, not because there are no workers, but because workers can't afford to live near the work. Hospitals, schools, restaurants, construction itself. The labor needed to fix the crisis gets priced out by the crisis. And the safety net frays. On census night in 2021, the Australian Bureau of Statistics estimated 122,494 people were experiencing homelessness. That includes rough sleeping, but also people cycling between couches and those living in severely overcrowded housing. Homelessness is what happens when a housing system stops functioning as a system and becomes a filter, sorting people into stability or constant precarity. At the same time, the political response lags reality. Funds get announced. 10 billion Australian dollar investment vehicles, like the Housing Australia Future Fund. Promises of 30,000 social and affordable homes over 5 years. But even when the plan is real, the calendar is unforgiving. Families are being priced out now. Leases end now. Interest payments reset now. So why does it feel impossible today rather than 10 years ago? Because multiple waves hit at once. Wave 1, long-run property inflation. Wave 2, ultra-tight rentals. Wave 3, the post-pandemic population rebound. Wave 4, an inflation spike that lifted everything else. Wave 5, a construction pipeline that cannot instantly expand. Put those waves together, and society starts to split. On one side, owners, especially those who bought earlier, watch values rise and equity grow. On the other, renters, especially younger and lower-income workers, watch more of their pay disappear into housing, with nothing left to convert into ownership. One group builds wealth by living, the other pays to exist. And the most corrosive part is psychological. A generation grows up believing effort leads to stability. Then they discover that stability is auctioned. Not earned, auctioned. If you want the clearest definition of impossible, it's this: when a full-time job no longer guarantees a home. Australia is not out of land. It is out of affordable, serviced, well-located housing delivered at scale. Until that changes, every new arrival, every new household, every breakup, every graduate becomes another competitor in a fight over too few keys. So the final question isn't whether Australia will remain beautiful. It will. The question is whether ordinary Australians will still be able to live inside the postcard, or only visit it, like tourists in their own country. Now zoom into the numbers people feel every Friday. In September 2024, the national median weekly rent sat at around 642 Australian dollars. That's not a premium suburb. That's the midpoint of the market. Separately, National Housing Analysis shows that by late 2024, the median income household needed about 33% of income just to pay the rent on a new lease. A third of your income, before power, food, or a doctor's visit. For many households, it is higher, which is why the old 30% housing stress rule is no longer a warning, it's daily life. Buying offers no relief. By 2024, median income households needed around 10.6 years to save a 20% deposit, assuming they could put aside roughly 15% of income each year. A decade of saving for the privilege of taking on a mortgage, while paying rent the entire time. And as the deposit hurdle grows, the market tilts further toward those who already own. Equity becomes the ticket. Parents become lenders. Inheritance becomes housing policy. The country doesn't say it out loud, but the message travels anyway. If you weren't born into help, you will pay longer. This is why the crisis spreads beyond the usual suspects. It's not just students and new migrants in inner-city apartments. It's teachers pushed into outer suburbs, firefighters commuting 2 hours, hospitality staff sleeping in crowded share houses near tourist hotspots because there's no worker housing. Regional towns see rents spike as city dwellers arrive with remote salaries, bringing demand to places that never built for it. And yes, governments can announce big numbers. A 1.2 million home target, a future fund meant to help deliver 30,000 affordable homes. But compare the scales. Australia added hundreds of thousands of people in a single year. Homes arrive slowly. And the gap between them? That is the story today.